Shalom Mishpachim, welcome to His Narrow Bridge. Our time together today is meant to immerse ourselves in the Word of Yahweh. It is meant to be a personal time of connection to the Word for each of us. I will read each word as translated in English in an interlinear Hebrew Bible. These shows are pre-recorded, so I will be in chat when they air. Feel free to use the chat to post anything that comes to your mind as we read the word. We will begin with prayer, followed by time for each of us to say our own personal prayers. Our beloved friend Alan Horvath taught us, make Elohim number one on a list of one. We pray in the name of Elohim, which includes Yahweh, Yeshua, and the Ruach HaKodesh. Thank you, Elohim, for our lives and all you provide. We ask for a hedge of protection around our mishpacha as we pray and study. We love you dearly. We are your children. We come to you with questions as we seek our personal relationships with you. Please help us learn. If any darkness enters our time together, we ask you now to rebuke it. We will now listen to your word as we immerse ourselves in it and let it speak to us.
Acts chapter 11. And it was heard by the Shlichim and the brothers who were in Yehud that even Gentiles received the word of Elohim. And while Shimon went up to Jerusalem, those who were from circumcision were contending with him, while they were saying that he enters with and dines with them. And Shimon was expounding to them, saying repeatedly that while I was praying in Joppa, I saw in a dream a certain garment that was descending, which resembled a linen cloth, and it was fastened by four of its corners, and it was drawn out, and it came all the way from Shamayim towards me. And I looked at it, and I saw that there was in it 4-footed animals and insects of the earth, and even birds of the sky. And I heard a voice that said to me, Shimon, rise up, slaughter and eat. And I said, Elohim forbid, my master, for the unclean and the defiled has not ever entered upon my mouth. And again a voice from Shamayim said to me, that which Elohim has cleansed you should not regard as defiled. Footnote 114. The Ruach HaKodesh, set-apart spirit, is confirmed in Gentile converts who were turning to Yahweh. New converts were not to be viewed as unclean. Gentiles entering into the kingdom of Elohim are instructed not to eat things sacrificed to idols, nor blood, nor things strangled. Acts 15:29. This is Torah directed by the Ruach HaKodesh, not just as Jews, as is popular Christian ideology, but also at the Gentiles who sought to worship Yahweh. Sadly, the false church teaches all manner of lawlessness and anti-Torah doctrines, but Yeshua teaches in Matthew 5:19 that they who break the least of the commandments will also be least in the kingdom of heaven. The Kedoshim, set-apart people in Mashiach, do not dine on swine or any other unclean things, according to Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. The renewed covenant in Jeremiah 31 writes Torah upon the heart. See Matthew 5:17. Verse 10. This occurred 3 times, and everything was taken up to heaven. And at that moment, men who were sent to me from Cornelius from Caesarea came and stood at the gate of the courtyard that I had lodged in. And the Ruach said to me to go with them without doubt. And those 6 brothers came with me also, and we entered the house of the man. Verse 13. And he reported to us how he saw a messenger who stood in his house and said to him to send him to the city of Joppa and bring Shimon, who is called Kepha, and he will speak with you words by which you will live, you and all your house. And as I went out there to speak, the Ruach HaKodesh rested upon them, as how it did upon us from before. And I remembered the word of our Master when he said that Yochanan immersed with water, but you will immerse with the Ruach HaKodesh. If therefore Elohim gives in an equal way the gift to Gentiles, those who believe in our Master Yeshua the Mashiach, as also to us, who was I that I should be able to hinder Elohim? And when they heard these words, they became silent, and they praised Elohim. And they were saying that perhaps Elohim has given the Gentiles repentance to life, and those who were scattered by the persecution that happened on account of Stephen were reaching all the way to Ponica and even to the country of Kupros and to Antiochia, while they were not speaking with anyone except only a word with the Jews. Now there were men among them from Kupros and from Corinne. They were entering Antioch and were speaking with Greeks and were preaching concerning our Master Yeshua. And there was the hand of the Master among them, and many believed and turned face towards the Master. And this was heard by the ears of the sons of the congregation in Jerusalem. And they sent Barnabas to Antioch. And when he arrived there and saw the grace of Elohim, he rejoined and was beseeching from them that they should be followers to our Master with all their heart, because he was a good man and he was filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, with faith. Aman. Many people were added to our Master. And he was departing to Tarsus to seek Shaul. When he found him, he brought him with him to Antiochia. And they gathered as one a whole year, and they taught many people in the congregation. From that time, the disciples in Antioch were first called Christianae. Footnote 115. The Shlichim apostles do not call themselves Christianae, Christians. The Shlichim are members of the way, referred to as Netzarim, Acts 24:5 and 12 through 14. Gentiles in Antioch coined the word Christian, a Greek term for messianics. The Greek term was transliterated back into Aramaic for the benefit of the Jewish followers of Mashiach. Verse 27, and in those days prophets came from Jerusalem to there, and one of them arose, whose name was Agabus, and informed them by the Spirit that a great famine would occur in all the area. And this famine happened in the days of Claudius Caesar. And moreover, the disciples determined each one of them to send according to what he had to the service of the brothers, those who were dwelling in Yehud. And they sent by way of Barnabas and Shaul to the elders who were there.
My experience with Miles is that he was the best listener who also led a band that I've ever seen. Miles is playing an E flat and I'm holding some kind of E flat fifth on the organ, so it's a constant drone, and he plays an E flat which is as in tune as any trumpet player can, that you wouldn't say it's out of tune. But Miles went to his tubing for a split second and tuned it even better. Now who would be listening that hard?
The very beginning, when I started playing with Miles, he told me once, he told me, don't bang, just play. So, and that was it. So I didn't really understand him, and I thought, okay, don't bang, so maybe I'm banging things. I'm playing too loud, I thought. So, so I start playing just, little things like. And then he was looking at me the whole concert, and I would pick up another little thing and go, like, because I didn't want to bang, Huh? So then, next time that he told me anything, then he said, you listen and you play. And in reality, there was very few words, but it was one of the greatest lessons, musical lessons that I ever had. You listen and you play. And that gave me total freedom to play as long as I was listening.
We finally finished this recording, and we go outside to go home. And we're kind of milling about, and John McLaughlin says, Herbie, can I speak to you a minute? I said, sure. So he walks over and he whispers to me. He says, what we did, was it any good or what? I said, John, welcome to a Miles Davis session. Because I said, I don't know, but when the records come out, they sound fine.
I don't think he said 3 or 4 words to me about the music, ever, about what to play. He said once play thirds. I don't know what he meant. I said, I guess play thirds under the melody. I don't know. He would play like, I said, third. I guess he meant that. I don't know. Like, he said very little. And I think that to the other musicians, from what I understand, not only in my time with him, but the musicians in the past and in the 80s, he also said very little.
He would always say, play what you don't know, which means you had to know everything to get back to zero. That was my interpretation of it. But if you listen to Miles and listen to Train, you listen to all them cats, the exploration takes you back to the embryo. You did a whole full life. So 360 is zero. He would always say, I don't want you to play what you know, play what you don't know.
I did not like the music. And it took me, as I say, 3 to 6 months of these nighttime sessions in these hotels of hearing this music. One night I probably had something to smoke, and it's just like, I said, Miles, I think I hear something what you're trying to do. I mean, it dawned on me what he was trying to do.
Musically, it was an incredible, uplifting experience. It was an adventure all of the time, and everyone always gave their all on stage. And we all knew it was an adventure, and we were all searching in our own ways for different forms and different ways of making music.
I learned a whole bunch of new things about Miles when I began playing with him that I didn't realize before. The gift of listening and knowing how to listen, I found that out early in the game with Miles. It was incredible how the notes that came from him were a real combination of his own creativity and his ability to hear what everybody else was playing and incorporate that into kind of this core that would come out of his trumpet. Miles would play a phrase, And then I knew what it was that we were all doing. But it took Miles's voice musically, you know, that sound through his trumpet, and his being able to, his ability to hear what that could be and provide the glue to bring it all together and make it sound like a real band.
There's something about being in the presence of somebody with that kind of personal power. It's not a power that has to be exercised. It's just a power that is, you know, and that's something different to me. If there's somebody that's kind of swaggering around and show, you know, yeah, I'm the hippest, I'm the most powerful, whatever, that doesn't get your attention. But when somebody just is powerful, they have that. They don't have to do a thing. Miles could just walk in a room and everybody would sit up a bit straighter. You know, is that kind of respect that he commanded, and you know, being around that and being around that intensity every time he put the trumpet to his lips, you know.
That's why every time, this is interesting, I never thought of it like this. When he changed the woman, changing the music, he would also change the musicians. Every band, when he finished with that, when he finished exploring with that particular idiom, he would change to go into the next phase. He understood you needed musicians who could interpret the new music.
Music, so much guitar, so loud. I said, Miles, you really don't need the saxophone. I mean, it's really superfluous. I mean, we're not playing the blues anymore. This is ridiculous. You don't need the saxophone. I'm trying to ace out of a gig, but I got to, you know. He said, people like to see you move your fingers. I said, okay, walk away. Think about that. And it came years later. Charlie Parker, fast. Miles, slow. Right away he saw balance is the key. If you do, I do the other. Coltrane, fast. Miles, slow. Wayne Shorter, fast. Miles, slow. Basically. And what he was talking about was balance. And that was right. Because if he's going to be the way he plays, and he knew the way he played, he was a stylist in a certain way musically, he needed the antidote. He needed the opposite to make the people, quote, you know, in other words, to make the full statement.
You did this once, I won't tell you what the name of the guy, but there was a drummer and he was playing all these fills in between. It was a very, very slow tempo. It was like boom, boom, boom. You know, and he couldn't help himself. He had to keep filling in these blanks. So Miles said, okay, let's do it again. It's the tempo. Okay.
One of the things that was interesting to me after I joined the band, of course, was to then be privileged to watch that process and see how he molded music in the studio and what kind of process he brought to bear. And a lot of the time it was about taking away things rather than putting them in. It was about eliminating the superfluous material and getting down to the essence and using that. And to me, Miles was one of the great minimalists in terms of that, you know, being able to take a very small amount of compositional material, but make it so significant that it would create a whole world for the improviser to work with.
Miles Davis doesn't sound like a trumpet. It sounds like a voice. In fact, this is what I love about the best musicians. The best musicians, I don't hear the guitar or the trumpet. They sound like life. Anybody who sounds like a trumpet, I don't listen to him. You know, but Miles doesn't sound like a trumpet. He sounds like life looking at you and sharing experiences with you.
I did something on Herbie's record, and they were not playing like accompanists. I mean, you could hardly get in on the downbeat because Herbie's in the middle of a figure. That's Miles taught them that. He, you know, I mean, he's playing way over. He's not setting up the downbeat at all. He's in the middle of this crescendo thing, you know, like if I come in, I'm coming in the middle of this moving, glittering shape, you know, so I'm kind of waiting for him. He's descending now. Okay, we're up to 2. We're up to 2.5, and I got a lot of words to deliver. How am I going to get all those syllables in the remaining, you know, half a bar? There's no way I can. I'm going to have to slide over into the next bar. So that's a thing that those guys did a lot. They slid across the bars, you know. It wasn't the backbeat, you can't lose it. They were trying to lose it, absolutely. First of all, every time you do something, you make mistakes, you know, and so you want another shot at it to fix those. They're not the mistakes that the critics point out. They never know where the mistakes are. The things that they call mistakes are probably what's great about it. But, you know, but what you think are the things that need to be fixed gives you your next period. So you're going onward and you're building off of it. That didn't get that quite right. I'm going to try something else the next time, you know.
Miles was a great, loving, caring, and very honest musician. You know, when it came to the music, he was that way. I wouldn't say that he was a perfect human being because he wasn't. You know, he had other kinds of problems, you know, over the years. But so much of what they had to say that was negative about Miles was because, really it was because they themselves had problems.
For more information about these videos, look at the video description and click more. You can then have links to my YouTube channel and the YouTube playlist, which has all the Aramaic English New Testament videos, Bible Hub links, and Odiote. So this is useful because you can click a chapter and go word by word through the scriptures and get details about each word and where they are used throughout the Bible.